Joining me now are Bill Nye, the science guy, and Mark Morano. He's the publisher of ClimateDepot.com. Welcome to you both. Let me start with you, Mark Morano, if I may. You are implacably opposed to the concept of man-made climate change. Why?
We followed the evidence. There are quite literally hundreds of factors that influence global temperature, everything from tilt to the Earth's axis to ocean cycles to water vapor, methane, solar system, the sun, cloud feedback, volcanic dust. The idea that CO2 is the tail that wags the dogs is not supportable. And if you go down and look at the scientific literature, we're finding reams of data in new peer-reviewed studies showing the medieval and Roman warming periods as warm or warmer than today without our CO2 emissions. So what's happened here is the whole movement, because now we've gone 16 years without global warming, according to the UN data, and they've now morphed into extreme weather. And we have the absurd spectacle of people claiming that acts of Congress and the United Nations can control the weather and make hurricanes less nasty and make tornadoes less frequent, which, by the way, none of them are showing any trends at all that are unusual.
Okay, Bill Nye, your response.
Well, we start talking about the facts. Those medieval warming period and the Roman warming period, those are just in Europe, and they're not representative.
Both
so let's see if we can agree on a couple things. Do you agree that when I was a kid or when you were a kid, there was 340 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere?
Sure, carbon dioxide's rising. What's your point?
Okay.
No.
So here's the point: is it's rising extraordinarily fast. That's the difference between the bad old days and now. It's much faster than ever in history, and so
it's
this
a trace.
Yeah, let him finish.
Well,
Mark, please. Let him finish.
It's the rate that's of great concern more than the actual.
And what do you put that rate down to, Bill?
Oh, it's human activity. I mean, you go back. This is what I say all the time. So you look in the ice, and you find bubbles of trapped gas from 200 years ago, or let alone 1,000 years ago. There's nobody running around with a hypodermic needle injecting bubbles of gas in ancient ice cores. I mean, that's the ancient atmosphere in there. And so you can determine the composition of the ancient atmosphere exactly.
Bottom line is hundreds of factors are dictating our climate. The medieval warm period was both southern and northern hemisphere. On my website, there's literally, it demolishes the idea of a hockey stick, new peer-reviewed studies. So the idea that Bill Nye is just going around saying CO2 is up, therefore global warming is dangerous, we should be concerned, it's not. It's not dangerous. The bottom line is all these other factors dwarf the effect of CO2.
This will be the hottest 2 decades in history, in recorded history.
Because every proposal ever done, including the United Nations Kyoto Protocol, would not even detectably impact the temperatures, assuming you buy into their science.
We're not going to affect the temperature.
When we're talking about a climate bill in the United States, President Obama was going around telling people it'll keep the planet 4 or 5 degrees cooler for our grandchildren. His own EPA said it wouldn't affect global CO2 levels, let alone temperature. And if you actually do, right now the developing world's getting 1,000+ coal plants. They are 1.3 billion people don't have running water and electricity. If we actually go the route of trying to stop carbon-based energy, which has been their lifeline, which would lower infant mortality and long life expectancy, it would be the most immoral position you could take. So the bottom line is, even if the skeptics are wrong, the solutions that the global warming alarmists have proposed would have no detectable impact on climate.
So many people live near the coasts, and they're very old economic reasons. People lived on rivers since the beginning of human history. So as sea levels, as the world gets warmer, and I take it he doesn't disagree that the world's getting warmer,
we've warmed
the sea actually gets bigger. And so ice is also falling off the ice sheets, so that ice is up on land. So this is also going to cause the sea level to rise. So, for example, in the case of Sandy, which was not an especially big hurricane, the economic impact was $30 billion, and that's in the developed world where we have the resources to deal with it. When you have people displaced on continental scales, we're not talking about a few people trying to get through a fence at a border between countries. We're talking about tens of millions of people trying to move north, trying to move out of Southeast Asia. You're going to have trouble. So the sooner you get started on that problem, the better.
These are all predictions based on climate models. These predictions that Bill's going are based on climate models that violate 81 out of 87 of the basic principles of forecasting.
So, Mark Morano, do you accept that the ocean levels are rising, that the planet is getting hotter, that CO2 emissions have dramatically increased in the last 50 years.
That ice sheets are shrinking?
Ice sheets are shrinking, and that the planet population is doubling and accelerating at a terrifying rate, and that the combination of all these things is likely to be a major problem for the next 2 or 3 generations, and therefore doing nothing shouldn't really be a sensible, responsible option.
Doing nothing? First of all, the United States did nothing. Our CO2 emissions are dropping as we move to fracking away from coal through technology. So the idea of doing nothing, there's nothing to do. The idea of there's no way you can solve a non-problem. Sea level has been rising since the end of the last ice age. There's no acceleration. Dutch Meteorological Institute said there's no acceleration. You can look at the data, the land-based data. There's no acceleration.
We just don't agree on the facts.
Where it goes to scary and where the horror story is are in all these predictions. And they come out and say it's worse than we thought. Why? Because the predictions get scarier and scarier.
I'm going to have to wrap it up, I'm afraid. It's been a spirited debate, and I appreciate you both coming on. To
Thank you.
Mark Morano and Bill Nye. I'm sure it will rumble on. Thank you.